Hello guys and welcome to another lesson of Mossy Maths with me, Tom Moss, and today we're going through the first lesson on a new topic called surds. Now, for those of you that are familiar with surds, you might want to go on to a future video where we look at rationalising the denominator, so lesson 2, okay? But for those of you that aren't familiar with it, a surd is basically where you have the square root of a number that is not easily simplifiable. Is that a word? Simplifiable? Not sure about that, but if you have a number like the square root of 12, we can't easily simplify that, okay? Because we're going to get a decimal, just like with the square root of 32. And we'd have to work it out on a calculator. But in Core 1 we're not allowed a calculator, so we have to just simplify this best we can. Whereas if you had something like the square root of 16, then that's just full. So that would not be a surd, because we can simplify it. So we're going to go through 3 laws of surds today. And these are the key points, the building blocks if you like, to lesson 2, where we go through an exam style question. So the first law of surds states that the square root of AB, this being one number, is equal to the square root of A multiplied by the square root of B. All this means is we can split a number such as these into its factors that can multiply together to give us this. I'll show you exactly what I mean when we go through the examples. With the second law, this states that the square root of A divided by B is equal to the square root of A divided by the square root of B. Now all we're doing here is splitting the numerator and denominator into square roots individually, so that we can then break this down easily. Again, we'll go through 2 examples with this law. And finally, the third law of surds states that A is equal to the square root of A squared, which is equal to the square root of A multiplied by the square root of A. Now, if you think about this, it does make sense. Because if we had, say, the square root of 5, and then we squared that, we're just going to get 5. Because we're effectively inversing or undoing the square root when we square it. So, as the square root and the squared functions are opposite, they're just going to cancel to give us the number that's inside the square root sign. So I'll show you what I mean with that example there. Let's go back to the first law and look at the first question. And the question says simplify the square root of 12. So we need to split this up into 2 factors of 12 that multiply together to give us this. Well, we could have root 6 root 2. And that's acceptable. But really what we've done is overcomplicated this. Because we can't simplify these numbers. These are both surds in themselves. So we've gone from having 1 surd to creating 2. So this is not simplified. We could also have 12 and 1, but again we'd just get back to this point. What we're looking for is root 4 root 3. Okay? Because the root 4 will simplify. The square root of 4 is just 2. So this root 4 multiplied by root 3 can just become 2 multiplied by root 3. And we write it in this way, 2 root 3. Just means this is being multiplied by the surd. And this is the same thing as this, but simplified. So you're looking at maybe 1 or 2 marks for this in an exam. This is the point where I'd like you to pause the video, have a go at this second example here, simplify the square root of 32. And then I'll go straight through it afterwards, okay guys? Right, hopefully you've had a go at home. So with this example we're looking for 2 factors of 32, one of which we hope to be a squared number. Well, we could have 16 and 2. 16 multiplied by 2 does indeed give us 32, and 16 is a squared number. So root 16 is just the same as 4 multiplied by root 2. And that's the simplified form of this. Now let's move on to the second law of surds, which is also, in my opinion, quite straightforward. So with this, we have the square root of 3 divided by 16. Now looking back to this, if we have the square root of a fraction, we can split this up into the square root of the numerator divided by the square root of the denominator. So doing that, we get the square root of 3 divided by the square root of 16. Now hopefully you can see where this is going, because the square root of 16 is just 4. So we're going to get root 3 divided by 4. And that's a simplified version of this. Now with the second example, we have the square root of 5 divided by 4. Again, following the same rule as here. You can pause the video if you like and have a go. All we're doing is the square root of 5 divided by the square root of 4. And root 4 is just 2. So we're going to get the square root of 5 divided by 2. Again, we can't simplify the square root of 5, just like we couldn't simplify the square root of 3. But we can simplify the denominator, so this is as simple as it's going to get without a calculator. And now we can move on to the third law. Now this example here, in my opinion, is the easiest out of all of these examples, because we simply write the number within the square root. We just write 3. Hopefully you can see where that's come from, because if you square root 3, and then square it, you're just going to get back to the 3. Looking at this law, the square root squared will just give us a, the number inside the square root sign. And now we move on to what is, in my opinion, the hardest example from all of these, because we have to expand the brackets with surds. And at first, this can be difficult. Once you get used to it, you'll be able to do this just like you would with any other quadratic function. But at first you may want to use something like the grid method if you're familiar with that, because that might help you to see what we're multiplying by what, and therefore to separate out the terms we get after the expansion. So if you like, use the grid method to start with, but as quick as you can get onto this method, the better really. So we do 2 multiplied by 2, okay, when we do this. We do the 2 multiplied by the 2. Because whenever we multiply surds, we have to multiply the number in front of the surds together, and we have to multiply the numbers within the surds together as well. So if we multiply the numbers in front of the surds, we get 2 times 2, which is 4. And if we multiply root 5 and root 5, we get the square root of 25. Now hopefully you can see that the square root of 25 is just 5. So here we're going to get 4 multiplied by the square root of 25, which is 5. 4 times 5 is 20. So there's the answer to this part of the expansion. Now we can move on to 2 root 5 multiplied by 3 root 6. Following the same rules, what we do is we do 3 multiplied by 2, which is 6. And then we do root 6 times root 5, which is root 30. Now hopefully you can see here we're going to get 2 root 5 multiplied by 3 root 6, but we're also going to get 2 root 5 times 3 root 6 again, here. So we're doing this twice. So we're going to get 6 root 30 plus 6 root 30. Well, 6 root 30 add 6 root 30 is just 12 root 30s. Okay, so we're going to get 12 root 30. And now we finally multiply 3 root 6 and 3 root 6 together. Following the same rules, 3 times 3 gives us 9. Root 6 times root 6 gives us root 36. Now again, hopefully you can see that root 36 does simplify to just 6. So we're going to get 9 multiplied by 6, which gives us 54. So now we can collect the terms we have. We have 54, we have 12 root 30, and we have 20. And again, hopefully, that's quite easy to simplify. The 2 root 30 is as simple as it will get, because root 30 cannot be split into its factors anymore. Whereas 54 plus 20 can be simplified. Hopefully we just know that that's going to give us 74. And the way we write it in an exam would be like this. We usually write the number first, followed by the surd. So we'd write 74 plus 12 root 30. And that's our answer to this question. So hopefully you followed these examples through. If you are, however, struggling with this question, don't worry too much. We'll be going through more of this in the next lesson on rationalising the denominator. But for now, you just need to be familiar with these 5 examples at least. And then you can move on to the second video. So thanks a lot guys for watching. If you found the video helpful, then please put a like. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. If you do have any questions, please put a comment below. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the lesson 2 on surds.